Good afternoon, everybody. We're on with Sandcar Services, and I want to talk about Geo's transmission real quick. I haven't done a lot of posting. Everything's been pretty much business as usual, just really busy. But this transmission's got something kind of unique to it, in the fact that it had a damaged main shaft from a reverse gear that came bad or went bad and damaged the second gear on it, so the main shaft had to be replaced. But this main shaft isn't even available anymore. It's a very, very tall gear ratio. So fortunately for him, he needed to re-gear anyway because he has a 514 ring and pinion. This is a 4-seat rear engine sandrail with 33-inch paddles. And I did this transmission, I don't know, probably 5 years ago when I had my shop down in Marietta. And back then, I didn't really talk a lot about gear ratios. I gotten way better since then on which ones are really good for the V8s. And the gears in this thing were fine. We chose to leave them alone. But he's been struggling with a power loss problem on this car for a long time. Now, I don't know if he actually physically has a problem or not, but I can tell you this. This gear stack is too tall for Glamis. His main stack, so he's got a 514, we already talked about that, 514 ring and pinion. This thing's a 264 first gear, 175 second gear. Most 4-seat V8s with 33-inch paddles that are roughly around 2,000 pounds, plus or minus 500, are running a 290 186 with a 514. So that's what we geared it to. And I've got quite a few customers I've done re-gears for, and they always, when I talk to them later on, everybody's loved the gears I've picked so far. I haven't really had anybody call me back and said, dude, we're way off the chart on that. So some of these gear ratios, it's just better to make sure that you're geared for your car, because this gear will definitely cause an engine to bog going up Oldsmobile in second gear. It's just way too tall. So one of the other things I do, obviously I put ARP shift fork bolts in it, got rid of these doggone plastic bearings that I hate, had to replace the reverse pivot. He wanted to go with the new nose cone with the new seal, new heavy-duty hockey stick. The other thing I wanted to tell everybody about is you guys need to keep an eye on your throwout bearings. When they start getting bent like that, you really need to start looking into why the pressure is so high that it's bending the throwout bearing. I typically put a brand new throwout bearing on every one of my transmissions. I buy the throwout bearings from Weddle and Weddle only. They're usually, it looks like from the box, either made in Italy or Germany. They are not China bearings. That's meant for somebody specific. But these throwout bearings, when they get bent like that, when they start getting a big curve, it means that the pressure plate is fighting the throwout bearing. So you have to find out if your pressure plate's bad or if you're overstroking the clutch with too big of a master cylinder. Most master cylinders back in the early days, when I say early, the early 2000s, most of the sandrails ran a 3/4 master cylinder for the clutch. 11/16 or 5/8. 5/8 is preferred for me. The smaller the bore size, the easier it is to push down. So for those of you that like to run stage 3 and stage 4 pressure plates, if you put a 5/8 master cylinder on and you can get a full release on your clutch with a 5/8, it's like butter compared to 3/4 and God help the guys that are actually running 7/8 master cylinders on their clutch. I've seen a couple of them. Those things you have to use both feet to push the clutch in. So the larger the bore, the harder the pedal is going to be. The smaller the bore, the easier the pedal is going to be. But with that being said, the smaller bore pushes less fluid, so it doesn't stroke the slave cylinder as far in as the large bore will. But since most sandrails don't have a positive stop like the throttle does with a bolt to stop the clutch from going all the way down, they typically, with a 3/4 master cylinder, overstroke in the first place. So there's an awful lot of problems with the 2D that are actually the diag can come back to the clutch assembly. Right, Ian? Him and I talk an awful lot about clutch assemblies because clutches can cause just as much damage in a transmission as bad shifting or bad driving. So with that being said, thanks for watching. This is Ron with Sandcar Services. We'll see you on the next video. The next transmission on the bench is going to be very interesting because I believe it broke something interesting. See you guys later.